Hello to our worldwide audience. This is James Kalm, coming back for our 13th year of half-assed reporting. And what I'm going to try to do is put together a round robin of some of the current abstract painting that is happening here, being exhibited here in New York. And what better place to start than here with Robert Motherwell at Paul Kasmin. Early paintings. I pedaled by here the other night, peeked in the windows, and said to myself, this is a show I'm going to have to get back and take a look at. And I'm glad that some of the galleries down here, like Paul Kasmin and Larry Gagosian, have actually started to put together some, what I would say is museum quality shows. And they've actually brought some very well respected artists back into the spotlight. Well, I'm not going to take a lot of time to comment on these because we're going to try to hustle through at least a couple of shows. This is titled Line Figure on Green 1945, Oil and Sand on Canvas 16 by 12. Well, they're saying that this is maybe one of the first one or two shows that is actually focused in on Motherwell's early work. And I believe they said all of these are from the 1940s and early 50s. This is titled, untitled, 12 by 9 inches. This is untitled 1950. Well, I think Motherwell was one of maybe 8 or 10 of what was considered the original Abstract Expressionists. And he might have also kind of slipped over into the color field group of painters, or the post-painterly abstractionists, as Clement Greenberg called them. But most of these works are from a period that preceded that, and this is when he was kind of moving from surrealism into some kind of more planal, more flatter abstraction. It's got titled Yellow Still Life, oil on panel 18 by 23. But we can see in a lot of these kind of his basic format. Well, this is totally unexpected. La Bella Mexicana, Maria, 1941, so maybe this is the oldest piece in the show. (29 by 23). Got kind of a cubistic senorita. Yeah, but still we've got his kind of big black vertical stripes. Three Figures, 1941. And I wonder if this is in an artist frame. One of the things that I'm kind of impressed with is that a lot of these early paintings have got a great surface. He's built up his paint surface, and he's added sand and gravel to some of this. It's untitled Black and Green, 10 by 8. Okay, the last three in this gallery are kind of transitional, flattened out compositions. It's titled The Sentinel, 1942. And I wouldn't be surprised if this was painted about the time that Mondrian came to New York and was exerting a great influence. This is Ricardo di Chiosian, 1942, 42 by 34 inches. That would be a kind of a, almost like a Milovich cross, but it's kind of added some little rectangles of modulated color, but very subdued palette, lots of blacks and browns. The Spanish prison window, or the Spanish prison parentheses window, 1943-44, 52 by 42. And I think Motherwell is probably best known for his eulogies to the Spanish Civil War. I think he did, I don't know, maybe 150 or 60 versions of that. And, well, this could have been one of the first pieces that was kind of dealing with that theme. And, well, he does have a nice sense for the earth tones and of these large black forms. Let's check out the other gallery. This is untitled 1951. Oil and charcoal on masonite. And, well, you can see that he's loosened up quite a bit. And he's got a lot of nice kind of swirly gestural lines in here, and you can just see the graphite drawing coming through. And he's kind of lightened up his palette a little bit. He's got a lot of yellow ochres, Naples yellow. This is untitled Orange and Brown, 20 1/8 by 23. It's also 1951, and it looks amazingly fresh. It makes me think of Sotine's Carcass of Beef a little. This was a surprising piece. Untitled, 1951, 12 by 9 inches. Well, I think Motherwell was married to Helen Frankenthaler for a while. And he also edited maybe one of the best books on Dadaism that ever came out. think it was titled Dada, the Painters and Poets. Oh, I like this piece. This might be my favorite piece in the show. It's titled Orange Personage, 1947. Oil and sand on canvas. And, well, I like the kind of orange and yellow ochre ground. But you can see that he's really added a lot into the surface and then just kept painting over it and building up the nubs. And these kind of pod-like forms make me think of Miro, but I do think Motherwell had a very personal color sensibility. Let's see if we can get the reflections out of the way. Untitled 1951 Oil and Graphite on Masonite. Again, we can see the graphite lines coming through. And this kind of makes me think of a Matisse cutout, but it's definitely not a Matisseian color selection. This is titled Black Leaves. Yeah, I look at this and I can definitely see Spanish eulogies. And again, it's kind of a Matisse in blacks and earth tones. The Hotel Corridor, 1950, 44 by 55. I think this might be the biggest piece in the show. And, well, I wonder if these pieces have been restored because this looks pretty good. Well, we took a look at an exhibition by Larry Rivers last week. And said there was a lot of, although Larry was a figurative artist, I said there was a lot of abstract expressionist brushwork and pedimetti and overlays of color. And, well, this piece has some of that. We're going to wrap up looking at this piece, Dark. It's titled The Dark Lady, 24 by 20 inches. $1947, and it says 1980, 47 and 85, so maybe he came in and touched it up. And again, we got the graffiti, a lot of burn umber, raw umber, blacks and dark grays. Okay, that was a run through of Robert Motherwell early paintings here at Paul Kasmin Gallery. We're gonna roll on. Don't hit the pedestrians. Continuing our tour, taking some glimpses at this season's representations of abstract painting. We're gonna run in here to McKenzie on Orchard Street. and we're going to take a look at a show by Jason Karolak titled Prospects. Well, I'll start over here. I came in and initially picked up a little press blurb, and they're talking about, the title of that is The High Drama of Hot Colors in a Field of Black. And, well, as you can see, all of these pieces are basically almost like neon colors. And these are all oil? Is that what this is? Oil? Oil on linen. Oil on linen. And if we look closely, although it looks like it's a black field, it's actually got some sections of dark gray. And I would say that this painting is probably about 5.5 by 4.5 feet, something like that. 66. I was pretty close. We've got a nice little 56 by 58, okay. Fortunately for me, all of these pieces are untitled and they're just numbered. So this is P1713, oil on linen over wood panel, 16 by 14. And Valerie, the proprietor here, just gave me a little explanation of Jason's process. Well, he'll start out and give the linen a coat of gesso, and then begin with large blocks of color, and then he'll start masking out little sections and paint the surface black, leaving little parts that come through, and then at some point he'll also add in some other lines, and you can sort of see with the impasto what's been added on and what's coming through from the below the black surface. This is P1715, 66 by 58. Well, I kind of like this. This makes me think of Stuart Davis in Neon. And then we've got a couple of blocks of, it's almost a mauve gray. And yeah, some of this line work makes me think of calligraphy. This is P1665. .46 by 40. Also, I like the matte surface. I don't know what he's mixing with his oil paint. Probably a lot of paint thinner, but it gets those blacks and grays down to a very, very matte surface. P1654, 13 by 15. You know, there's also a certain formalism. You can see the little hot pink corners in there that are sort of lay out the basic rectangle format. P1642, 15 by 13. Yeah, again, this is kind of like Mondrian, Broadway Boogie Woogie, except this is at nighttime. Now, almost seems like there's a kind of violet or a purple cast to the black background here, and there's little dots in his lines that he's laid on here, kind of resonate in a little different range. P1709. So I like the way that he kind of adds some little staccato sections of color in these border lines. Well, we'll run down this last wall. P1659. And the initial level on this is the kind of chartreuse yellow, and then he's built up his network. And I like this section where the kind of the blue organic lines break out of the yellow frame. (1626). This is maybe one of the more unusual compositions. She looks like kind of a cylindrical form of some kind. And yeah, the variation between the chartreuse yellow and the cad yellow deep is a nice contrast. P1716. This is 69 by 61. And we've got some very closely keyed blues here, mostly cobalt. Okay, we'll wrap up looking at this. 1656, 16 by 14 inches. Yeah, I like the way the vertical lines are higher intensity, and then the diagonal lines kind of are a darker shade of violet. It's kind of a interesting sense of perspective and depth. Well, that was a quick run through. Jason Karolak, Prospects, here at McKenzie on Orchard Street. Thanks, Valerie. continue our tour of abstract painting. We're going to run in here to Steven Harvey Fine Art. And we'll take a view of a show of recent paintings by Andrea Belag. Well, we were lucky enough to snag Andrea. Congratulations, show looks good.
Thank you.
Well, we're just going to take kind of a little run through here. One of the things I was kind of interested in is the fact that I guess I read the press release that these paintings are a little smaller than what you had normally been doing. Is that true?
Well, I emphasized this size because I thought it was the right scale for this space, and by this time I knew I was going to be showing there.
Okay.
Here, so yeah, it's a little bit. I contained myself size-wise.
One of the things that I'm kind of looking at and talking about is abstract painting today in New York, and maybe the New York school painting and stuff like that. But one of the things about New York painting was always it was huge. You know, Jackson Pollock and some of these other people, Rothko, always did these huge paintings. But these are mostly fairly intimate.
Well, there weren't many women in your original list that did those huge paintings, and if they did, they had.
Helen Frankenthaler did big paintings.
Yeah, she's a great painter, but she wasn't the first round of abstract expressionists. And
that's right. No.
Jo Mitchell, who was one of the greats, she actually had to leave New York to do her great work. And I love working larger, but right now, and for this group, this was the scale that I thought worked best.
And these are all oil.
They're oil.
Some are on panel, and some of them are on linen.
That's correct.
Okay, now is that a new thing for you, working on panels, or have you worked on panels before?
I've been doing it for about 3 years, but I haven't exposed as much of the panel in the paintings as I am now.
This is a good example.
Yes.
And I guess this is the namesake of the show, The Ghost Rider? Is that what this is titled? Who makes your panels?
A variety of people. Whoever can get them to me fastest.
That's nice. Now, you were talking about leaving more exposed wood.
Yes.
You want to talk a little bit about that? Is it just that you like it as a coloristic element, or?
Well, it changes the color, because if you put color on top of wood
yes, it
color,
does.
It's very different than when it's on top of white. White really pops. And this is a warm tone, and it absorbs a lot of the warmth. So,
and how about the way the paint sits on top of the wood? Is that?
That's different too, but this is more opaque than I generally paint. But now I'm putting more layers of transparent gesso on so I can make it transparent as well. But I like things to be a little bit different. It keeps me more on my toes painting the painting.
Well, one of the other things I was going to say is that a lot of your work, you're dealing with the brush stroke, and so you've got to have a very slippery surface that you can slide your brushes on.
The wood's not slippery. It's the opposite.
You think so? If you've got a primed linen, it's even slipperier than the raw wood.
Yeah.
And what's the title of this piece?
Ether.
Okay, we're going to keep moving along here. Is this the biggest piece in the show?
Yes, it is.
So that's 48 by 56 inches.
Yeah.
And this is oil on linen. How about some of your process here? I'm noticing that you've got, looks like little explosions, little balls that you've then gone over. Did you wipe that? Is that how you get that? Or do you just brush stroke, put another brush? Okay, both.
And they're done in layers.
And obviously the spontaneous aspect of this, kind of keeping them fresh, is very important for you, right?
Yes, and if it doesn't work, and sometimes it doesn't,
right.
I wipe it all down with paint remover and start again. I can only do that a couple of times.
Right, do you have to reprime your panel if you do that?
The wood panels I have to, this I don't. But I can't work it as long as the wood, which is
okay, we'll look at this one too. This is titled Red Strike. Now, how much time are you thinking about these? Do you have like an idea of how the painting is going to go before you start, or do you just kind of
I
make
don't know
one move
how
and
it's
let things
gonna go.
happen.
I don't know how it's going to go, but I know how I'm going to start it. I know what the impulse is or the energy that I will start the painting with, and I'll have a little quart of colors that I will start a painting with.
Okay, let's run in the back room. We got a few more back here to check out. Okay. Now, I was going to say with some of these, especially the ones on wood, there is a pretty, what would I say, a distinct image there. Some of the other pieces are a little fuzzier. You're dealing more with kind of soft edge forms, but this is pretty hard edged.
Well,
is that something new that you're working on, or?
Well, for these, I wanted to subdue the gesture. I wanted it to be more about creating form. And I was thinking differently about space. I was thinking more about negative, positive space. And now I'm back to gesture. But it's been changed because of this series.
Well, that's what I always kind of thought when I saw your work before, is that a lot of times whatever forms you were dealing with were basically what you could get with a brush stroke, and the brush strokes sort of became the forms, like this piece.
Yeah.
Do we have a title for this one?
I think it's Ring Around.
Ring Around, okay.
Run Around.
Now, you said you just have whoever can make the panels for you the fastest and get them to you, but I was wondering, do you distinguish between different types of wood? I mean, do you want something that's got an oak surface or a maple or pine?
All birch.
It's
They're
all
the
birch.
same material.
Okay.
I'm now looking for birch that has more markings on it. So I like to see the wood before it's actually made into a panel.
Now, this is also a wood panel, and you've pretty much covered the entire surface with paint, but still it's the layers of paint are thin enough that you can get the grain and everything coming through, even your pencil line. Okay, we're gonna run down and just glance at a couple of these, although this is nice.
That's the earliest one in the show.
And this is a couple of years old?
2016.
Okay. And I think we'll wrap up looking at this one. Okay, this is nice. And what's the title on this?
Back.
And I was also thinking, you're kind of the pieces that you're dealing with, these more hard-edged forms, you're also kind of reducing your palette down. This is basically 3 colors. Some of the other ones only 2.
Yeah.
Was that important for you to kind of limit your colors?
Yeah, I wanted to. They were basically between red and blue. And now I just got very tired of limitations, so everything goes in the painting, every color.
Everything.
Every light, bright color.
Okay. Andrea Belag, and what's the title of the show again?
Ghost
Rider. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Here at Steven Harvey Fine Arts Project. Thanks. It's Bushwick Open Studios weekend, but I thought we would wrap up my compilation of some of the abstract painting that is being shown here in New York in the fall of 2017, talking to this gentleman, Lynn Bellinger, and we're looking at I would say a small show of your work, or maybe work of small shows here in the project room at David and Schweitzer. You want to talk a little bit about the show? We can.
Sure. You want to start with the drawings?
Let's start with the drawings.
I've literally been doing these drawings for about 40 years.
40 years.
When I was a studio resident at PS1, I started doing just some of the simple geometric kind of Gothic shapes and obliterate everything with like a litho pencil, like Martin's early drawings. And then slowly, these more interesting shapes started to evolve.
Now, are these digital prints or something that then you work over? Or are these?
If you
Where
look
is
at this one over here? I'll flip that over. So it become right out of a Piero della Francesca book. So this is an inverted Piero. This is a little Fra Angelico.
So that's what I was wondering about, is the little captions on the bottom. So you are working over the top of
directly over them and leave some of the original
magazine illustrations. Is that what most of these are?
Reproductions.
All
so
art
they all
reproductions.
have to be from an art magazine or art books. A little Michelangelo. Jacob Casse. Still that work in there?
Okay.
So these are all from the last couple of years. I always love to work with Fra Angelico and Piero della Francesca, especially. You look at a typical Piero painting, there's a battle scene going on, but every face is the most sublime, beautiful face. You'd never think they were in that battle. Recent works that got involved in, this is Lucian Freud's Jenny in the Sheets. So I just left the sheets and knocked off Jenny.
And what are you working over the top of this? Is this acrylic, gouache, watercolor?
Yeah, everything, exactly. Wow, perfect. It's acrylic, gesso, gouache, and some watercolor in there too. And a lot of the shapes that somehow evolved from this wind up informing some of the paintings.
Well, let's start down here. We'll look at this piece.
That's fun. This was also a worked off of a drawing that I did from Piero. So I actually have parts of the Piero piece in here, parts of my original drawing in here, and then layered with...
So is this on board? Is this on canvas? Or what's the actual construction? Okay.
It's a wooden structure. Some of the repros here, this is a little bit of a Titian stuck into that little corner, and then a lot of plaster. Acrylic.
I was wondering about that matte surface, because that's gorgeous.
That's a little modeling paste mixed with plaster, a little bit of pumice, a little bit of archival glue, and you get that nice flat, like fresco-like look.
It's nice. Let's keep moving down the wall here.
This is Miscreant.
I beg your pardon.
You know, it's got that wacky standout shape. That's another Piero that I worked from.
Now you are, and I noticed in several of these pieces, you're kind of getting away from just the straight rectangle. You might use the rectangle as like a base, and then you're kind of building stuff on top of that, and
I always think painting
bouncing off of that,
an object rather than just the illusion of the surface. So I love breaking that frame. This piece is called QUARTET for Tom Black. Everybody knows Tom Black's work. I share a studio with T.E. Black Studios. They screen every wall you see at the Met, the Whitney.
All the labels and all the wall signs are done there. Wow.
This is another Piero, but what I love about the Sienese painting is as they're getting more humanist with the shape, the background geometry is so screwed up. And I love the play between that, you know, the awkward buildings in the background of the Sienese painting and the humanist element. Once they hit the Renaissance and everything was perfect.
Yeah, once they figured out perspective, kind of lost its interesting quality. Now, I was going to ask you, do you ever think about Elizabeth Murray when you're doing some of this kind of the getting away from the rectangle?
She was the original person who broke off.
Yeah, we love Elizabeth. Fantastic.
I remember the first show she had at Paula Cooper, where it was just a couple
the shape things and the three-dimensional things sticking out.
Oh yeah. Doing the rectangles. Then she started doing those shapes, and then when she came off the wall, you know, you can't help but look at positive things like this.
Now I was talking to you about this one before, and you said that you actually have some encaustic in here as well, right?
Yep, there's some encaustic in there, some glue mixed with acrylic. A lot of the background of this are old pieces of palette paper that I stapled onto Homosote, and then I'm trying to illustrate all of James Joyce's Ulysses in a complete abstract way.
That's going to keep you busy for about the next 2 centuries.
30 years, I'd say, at least.
Okay, and this is what, about 16, 17 inches by 14, something like that?
I love that when you do that. You hit the nail on the head all the time.
I spent a lot of time looking at canvases and figuring out the sizes. Yeah. Okay, we're going to end up looking at this one, Lynn.
That's
Since this is the showstopper,
Yeah, I like
do you have a
the
title for this?
Yeah, this is KKP Plutus Red. Let me just explain.
KKP Plutus Red.
Yeah, there's a painter, Li Sun, from the 12th century in China, who did this beautiful illustration of a guy called the knick-knack peddler. There's this little old guy holding a stick. Coming off the stick are all other horizontal and diagonal sticks, and hanging from those are the knickknacks that he's selling. So since I'm really plumaging art history with the drawings, this is kind of like the art detritus of everything hanging here. So these shapes really were informed by some of that. Now it's also called Plutus Red. Plutus is the brother of Pluto. Plutus guarded the 7th level of hell in Dante's Inferno. And in there, it was especially for the people who are gluttons and hoarders. And since this is really encrusted with
The gluttons and hoarders,
the
okay.
gluttons.
The gluttons,
Yeah.
okay. Now, is this one also on board, or do you have...
No, this is canvas.
This is on canvas, okay.
Oil on canvas with some pieces of metal that I find.
Yes, let's get a close look at this. And you were saying that you'd worked on this for a couple of years?
This is about 2.5 years, so it should be dry
In another
year
20 or 30 years.
Yeah, 2030.
You know, I was noticing, and I was mentioning this to someone else, the background, you have this kind of beautiful violet that sort of bleeds down and comes into more of a alizarin crimson, and then comes down and ends up with
ochre.
into a burnt sienna and then a yellow ochre, and that's just such a nice transition there.
That's why I always like to hang somewhere in between what is abstraction and what might be non-representational painting that is also anchored into realism.
And you've got hunks of rust or rusty pipes or something that you stuck in there. And
the Supreme Deli to get coffee. These are the things that are laying around. So to me, that's no different than art history.
I saw something in here. I told someone to look like a Coney Island jellyfish. You got any of those in there?
Some of these like wacky elements. I don't know if you can see these.
Okay. Parts
Right
of
off of eBay.
tin toys or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, Lynn Bellinger.
Thank you.
Now, does the show have a name?
Yeah, this was called Thugs. A couple of thug drawings, Miscreants, and Recent Extractions.
Thugs, Miscreants, and Recent Abstractions. Did I get that?
Recent Extractions.
Extractions.
Extracting from art history.
Okay, well, thanks.
Thank you.
And as we always say at the end, you can leave your comments, criticisms, ideas, suggestions. And as always, thank you, Kate. Whoa! Beautiful. Man, I'm charged up for the night now.